We need to talk about the genius that is the cult of the Roman emperors. Now, in ancient times in the Eastern Mediterranean, it was perfectly normal to worship your ruler or king as a living god. Think about the Egyptian pharaohs, for example. And when Roman emperors came into contact with these eastern provinces, they were worshipped as living gods. But in the west of the empire, particularly in Italy, this was seen as a massive taboo. Not only was it a bit weird, but it would have been very provocative and would have been seen as an overstep of imperial power. So, to get around this issue, the first Roman emperors decided to let people worship their genius. Now, the word genius doesn't mean the same thing as it does today, as it did in ancient Rome. It is the embodiment of their spiritual power. So, people would worship the genius of the Roman emperor. And they were very clever because they closely associated their genius with Roma, which was the personification of Rome itself. This was such a clever tactic because it was a loyalty test for the subjects. You were allowed to worship whichever gods or god you wanted, but you had to worship the genius of the Roman emperor if he ever came knocking. Certain Roman emperors were deified after their death. This means they were made into a literal god. One such emperor was Vespasian. He was a general who worked his way up through the ranks and eventually won a civil war, becoming emperor. When the Emperor Vespasian was dying of dysentery in 79 AD, he said, "Oh dear, I think I am becoming a god."